Principles of root canal instrumentation in pediatric endodontics.
Of gathering information about enemy forces or a particular area. Scouts are those who used to travel inside deep in the jungles and gather information. So the same principle is applied in endodontics. By scouting in endodontics, it means to provide an essential understanding of the existing anatomy within the root canal. So basically, scouting means a mental and a tactile roadmap to the canal. It helps the clinician, whether if you are a pedodontist or an endodontist, it helps you to assess the root canal anatomy. It gives you an idea of the root canal anatomy within your mind. Like you see a tooth, you see a radiographic, you see a tooth on the X-ray. So by scouting, you can assess the shape of the canal, the type of the canal, the width of the canal, the internal anatomy of the canal. So scouting in endodontics helps you to learn the path of the canal. How is the path of the canal? Whether the canal is curved lingually or buccally or distally. And to understand the canal, as I mentioned, right, whether the canal is bifurcating, trifurcating, is it a wide canal, is it a narrow canal? So all these principles can be understood by the method of scouting. Okay, now look at this slide. You can see when you put a file inside the canal and assessing the direction of the file inside the canal, it gives a tactile sense. All right, you understand the type of the canal, the curvatures of the canal. It helps you to assess the canal bifurcations, internal anatomy of the root canal. It helps you to understand whether the canals are dividing or they are joining. Right? It helps you to understand the size of the canal. You put your file inside the canal, move it gently, take it very slowly inside the canal, and by this action you can understand whether the canal is wide or is it narrow. Because when you understand the internal diameter or the internal anatomy of the canal, it helps you to understand the type of rotary file that you're going to use. All right? So it helps you to understand the size of the canal. It helps to understand calcifications inside the canal. Of course, this principle is not applied in pediatric dentistry that much, but yes, uh, if you are doing root canal procedures on adult patients or young adult geriatric groups, especially geriatric groups, scouting is very important, right? So how do you do scouting? You put a very fine file. Initially, we take a 8 number file, then 10 number, and then 15 number. You advance the file very gradually, all right, in a passive manner. Passive manner means you do not apply any force while you're advancing the file inside the root canal. So gradually you advance the file, you scout the coronal 1/3. That means you understand the internal anatomy of the coronal 1/3 of the tooth. Then you advance the file towards the middle 1/3, and then finally you advance the file till the apical constriction. That is, you scout the apical third. Once you have scouted the entire root canal in stepwise procedure, you take a working length X-ray. This is how you should do. You take again I am repeating, take a 8 number file, scout coronal 1/3, middle 1/3, apical 1/3. If your 8 number file is loose, you advance to a 10 number file and a 15 number file. Now there are two conditions, like if you are working on two teeth with single canals or single roots, like central incisors, lateral incisors. In such cases, I'm sure that 8 number file is absolutely loose. So you should always use your 10 or 15 number file as the initial, right? If you're going to work in teeth with multiple canals, like if you're going to work on mandibular molars or mandibular molars in primary mandibular molars, permanent mandibular molars, or premolars. In those cases, it's always beneficial to use a 8 number file for scouting, then advance to a 10 number file, and then advance to a 15 number file. Okay, now look at this diagram. This diagram, this X-ray shows that when you put a file is placed inside the root canal. Now look at the point of the arrow. All right, what can you see? This is the point at which your file deflects. All right. Imagine this condition clinically. You are doing endodontics in mandibular molars. All right. You put your file inside the root canal. When your file is placed inside the root canal, a 50 number file can easily negotiate this canal curvature. A 20 number file can easily negotiate the canal curvature. A 25 number file might negotiate the canal. But what about a larger file? All right, 30 number file. What if you put your 30 number hand file inside the canal in this particular situation? Again, please concentrate at this point, particular point at which the arrow is pointing. At this point, the file will touch the canal and will be deflected back, right? So what is happening? In the coronal part of the file is bending towards the outer surface of the tooth, right? So there are chances of missing the shaping procedure on the outer surface of the canal. You may deform the apical foramen. Why? Because the file is generating so much stress apically and it's a stiff file, right? So there are a lot of stresses created on the instrument. Okay, stresses are also created on the radicular dentine, but they are comparatively less than the stresses created on the instrument. So what is going to happen? Finally, the instrument will break. And that is why most of the people complain, ma'am, I have placed my file inside the canal and my file is separated. Rotary file separates off, right? So what should you do? You should refine this particular part of the dentine. That means you should refine the dentine in the coronal 1/3 of the tooth. Okay. This principle is known as coronal pre-flaring. Once you have scouted the canal, you understand the anatomy of the canal, then you use a file which can pre-flare the orifices or coronal 1/3 of the root canal. The principle is coronal pre-flaring. So why should I do pre-flaring? I am again repeating the same procedure. It helps to remove the coronal interferences, which in turn will reduce file separation inside the canal. It reduces the working length changes. Let me give you an example. You put a file inside the canal. Suppose the working length is 21 millimeters. You shape the root canal. All right. And once you have shaped the root canal, the working length changes. This is because of the coronal interferences, right? If you're working on primary molars, please do remove the coronal interferences. That's very important to minimize any change in working length from instrumentation to obturation. Next, it helps you to clearly understand the diameter of the minor foramen. All right. It increases the precision of apex locator if you're going to use. It reduces crack formation in the file and in the surrounding radicular dentine. It helps to reduce other extrusion of debris. Extrusion of debris is the most common reason why a master cone is short of working length, right? So pre-flaring, absolutely, pre-flaring helps to control this extruded debris in a significant manner. Now the question arises, I understood what is pre-flaring. Now, how should I do pre-flaring? There are two techniques to do pre-flaring. The former school of thought says you can do pre-flaring using a Gates Glidden drill. That's very common. Some people also use piezo reamers, but let me tell you, piezo reamers are used to remove gutta perca. They are not meant to do pre-flaring. All right. The recent techniques suggest that pre-flaring can be done by orifice openers. There are a number of orifice openers available in the market these days. Let's come to Gates Glidden drill. Okay, Gates Glidden drill are there in sizes number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. The advantage of Gates Glidden drill is that they have a non-cutting end. So that means they do not create a ledge inside the root canal. All right. They are self-centering. They keep on rotating at their own area, in their own area. All right. Look at this condition, the primary molar. The roots of primary molars are flared. All right. So this part is at high risk of, of perforation, of getting perforated when you're using Gates Glidden. Imagine this area. You're putting your Gates Glidden drill inside the canal. preparing the orifice coronal 1/3 area. Imagine what is going to happen once you put your Gates gradient inside this canal, reach coronal 1/3, it might create a perforation there, right? And these perforations are even more common in furcation areas, especially in permanent molars. They are very difficult to use in cervical areas and high risk areas, especially the furcation areas, because they can cut through the furcations and cause strip perforations. This is the biggest drawback of Gates gradient drill. Apart from this, studies have also shown that Gates gradient drill produces more crack as compared to other rotary file systems which have their specific orifice openers. So that is why Gates gradient drills are not used nowadays to prepare coronal 1/3. If you are using Gates gradient drill, I would recommend you to switch on your practice from GGs to orifice openers. There are multiple orifice openers. You can buy any which suits you and your practice. This is the one which I am using in my practice. Okay, just to give you an example, this is known as One Flare and it is available by Micromega. This orifice opener is heat treated. All right, I'm going to show you later in my slides what is heat treatment. The advantage of this orifice opener is that it has a tip of 25, that means 0.25 millimeters. The taper is 9%. So if you're going to use any orifice opener or maybe this in the root canal procedures of primary molars, my recommendation is please do not advance them more than 1/3 of the coronal, of more than 1/3 of the root canal length. That means you should confine these orifice openers within coronal 1/3 of the root canal or within 3 millimeters of the root canal. Do not advance beyond 3 millimeters of the root canal. And this statement is for generalized procedures. Like if you are taking the working length to be around 8 to 9 millimeters in primary molars, all right? So the advancement should not be more than 3 millimeters. If you're working on permanent molars, the advancement should not be more than coronal 1/3 of the canal or till the initial curvature of the canal. That's a very important principle. Okay, so the next wonderful part or best part about this particular instrument is that this file is made up of 1 millimeter wire. That means they have taken a wire with a width of 1 millimeter and they have machined it, electropolished and heat treated it to produce the file. So the maximum amount of dentine which the file is going to remove circumferentially is not more than 1 millimeters. So this particular principle makes it safe in when you use it inside inside root canal procedures as compared to other orifice openers that are commercially available. So this file is minimally invasive. All right. Now, from scouting, working length, orifice opening, the next principle is apical patency. Apical patency from the Glossary of Endodontics or by American Association of Endodontics suggests that this is a canal preparation technique where the apical portion of the canal is maintained free of debris by recapitulation with a small file through the apical foramen. That means you take a small file, maybe a 8-number file or a 10-number file, push it slightly beyond the minor diameter or the apical diameter or minor constriction, all right, to prevent extrusion of the debris inside the root canal. I mentioned a few minutes back that the major cause, the most common cause why master cone is short of the working length is accumulation of debris in the root canal. Nowadays, I'm sure most of us are using rotary principles in pediatric dentistry or in general dentistry, right? But what is the biggest drawback of rotary files apart from your apart from your instrument separation? The biggest drawback is accumulation of lot of debris because rotary files are very aggressive. They create a lot of debris inside the root canals, and this debris, when accumulated in the apical 1/3, can cause failure of the obturation filling materials reaching the apex, right? So patency is a method by which you can free the apical constriction of the debris produced, right? In the words of Dr. Buchanan, apical constriction is a method in which a small flexible K file is passively, please understand the word passively. Passively means you don't have to apply any force. The file moves passively through the apical constriction 0.5 to 1 millimeters, not more than 1 millimeters in any case, beyond the minor diameter without widening it. You are putting a small file and just pushing it slightly beyond the minor diameter. This can be confirmed by using a 10 number K file. 10 number K file is most commonly used. Pushing it gently, passively, okay, deliberately, reproducibly in such a manner, it reproduces your glide path, and minutely through the terminus of the canal. So what is the importance of apical patency? Number one, it helps to maintain your glide path. It provides knowledge of the anatomy of apical root curvature. This principle is like scouting. It facilitates your working length determination, preventing extrusion, preventing the deposition or accumulation of debris in the minor constant diameter. It improves the efficiency of irrigating procedures, allowing the irrigants to reach the apical 1/3 of the canal, and therefore it enhances the efficiency of obturation. It minimizes apical blocks by accumulation of the debris in the apical 1/3, and thereby it minimizes the chances of procedural errors like transportation or zipping. It reduces post-operative sensitivity. It disrupts the biofilms which are produced at a significant amount in the apical 1/3 of the tooth. It relieves pressure by repressurization at apex. But if you're talking about teeth with immature roots, which you commonly encounter in your pediatric dentistry practice, please do not do patency, because in this, by this manner, you're going to damage the periapical tissues. Avoid patency if you're working in blocked canals, because you're going to create more and more ledges. So these two situations are limitations of patency. After patency, we have to understand what is glide path. Glide path means you have to respect the original anatomy. Why? Because if you're going to use rotary files in your practice, these files are blind. They don't see what is beyond them. They just move. Okay? So stainless steel files are used to create a path into which the rotary files move. And this path, which is reproduced by the movement of SS file, is known as glide path file. So glide path is very essential for rotary endodontics. All right. Suppose your canal is S-shaped, right? The rotary file is not bothered whether your canal is S, Y, X, Z, O, any shape. Okay. It just follows the glide path. So you have to use your SS file, create an S, and into that S, which is created by your SS file, your rotary file moves. That is the principle of glide path. Okay, so this is a very smooth radicular tunnel right from the orifice of the canal or the minor diameter, minor constriction to the physiological terminus. This confirms that there is a pathway of rotary instruments to passively follow in the canal. You have to reproduce the glide path because your rotary file will move in the reproduced glide path. And how do you produce a reproducible glide path? The minimal size of a glide path should be a Super Ruse number 10 K file. Only after establishment of a reproducible glide path up to size 10 K file, it can be enlarged manually or mechanically. These days, the market is flooded with a lot of commercialized files. Okay, and each commercialized system have their own orifice opener, their glide path file, and then there's consequences, then the sequential rotary file. So if you're going to use any particular system, suppose you're going to use a pro taper system, you have to prepare the canal initially with the hand file. You have to use a hand file to produce glide path. then you have to switch on to their own rotary files to achieve glide path. So you cannot use a rotary glide path file until unless you have used a hand file to produce a glide path. So there are two methods. You can use only manual methods, 10, 15, 20, that's all. Or you can use mechanical, but mechanical method should only be used once you have prepared glide path using a manual file. All right. There are a number of mechanical files which can be used to prepare glide path. You have 1G, path files, pro gliders. As I mentioned, each system has their own glide path file. Path files is by Denseply, 1G is by Micromega, G1 and G2 is also by Micromega. When it comes to manual glide path files, there is a 10 number K file, there is a C plus file, and there is a C pilot files, which are commonly used. 10 number K file is a stainless steel file, all right, that has a tip diameter of 2%. C plus file is marketed by Denseply. It is a steel file, it is a stiffer file, and it is an acting cutting edge. That means it cuts through denting or it cuts through calcification. So C plus files are very good if you're working in calcified canals, right? Then you have C pilot files by VDW. These are the C plus file. You can see they come in number 6, 8, 10, and 15. All right. Taper increases gradually. There is variable taper. They have a step cutting tape. They can be used to negotiate calcified canals, which is of course not applicable to pediatric dentistry. And please avoid them when you're working in curved canal. Why? Because they have an active cutting tape. So they can create ledge, they can create perforation if you're going to use them in curved canals. Then there are C pilot files by VDW. The advantage of C pilot file is that they come in a number of 12.5 also. All right. So if you have narrow canals, curved canals, in those cases you can use VDW C pilot files. Then there are mechanical files or rotary glide path files like 1G. The advantage of 1G by Micromega is that it has an asymmetrical cross section. Please look here. It has an asymmetrical triangular cross section. And when the file moves inside the canal, only one part of this cross section touches the surrounding radicular dentin. So what is the result? These two ends are free. Now, cutting is achieved only at one part, where these two parts provide space for extrusion of the debris while preparing glide path. So this file prepares a glide path. It has a cutting efficiency also. It cuts through the dentine also. Simultaneously, it helps to remove the produced debris outside. All right. So it cuts, it clears also. So this is a beautiful advantage of 1G file system. This has a tip diameter of 0.14, which is intermediate of 10 and 15. So instead of using a 15 number file, you can use a 10 number file. You can switch on to 1G directly, and then you can go with a larger rotary files. You don't have to use a 15 number. So somehow this file, it saves your time. It enhances the efficiency of your working procedure also. This is 1G file and it's beautifully flexible. And studies have also suggested that when you're using a glide path file, the fracture of instruments significantly reduced. All right, and manual pre-flaring reduces instrument separation and torsional stresses on the file. So these two steps, as I mentioned, pre-flaring and glide path preparation are very important to reduce the chances of file separation inside the root canal procedure. In turn, they enhances the life of the file when you're going to use them for shaping. Now, I'm sure everybody must be knowing about this gel. This is what EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid gel. And why is it used? It is used during the root canal procedures for lubrication of the radicular dentine. emulsification, chelation, by which it helps to remove the dentinal debris, and it also has a surfactant added. The advantage of this surfactant is that it reduces the surface tension, increases the wettability or flowability of EDTA into the surrounding tissues from where it removes the dentinal debris. But very important point, studies have shown that during shaping canals, these lubricants have not been shown to be beneficial and can increase the torque of rotary files. So, uh, according to this particular study that was done by a very eminent endodontist, Dr. Peters and his team, instead of EDTA, it's always advisable to flood the canals with hypochlorite, which reduces the amount of torque or the forces produced on the rotary files and also enhances disinfection during shaping procedures. So there are some important points to remember. One, use rotary file only after glide path preparation. If you're going to use a manual glide path preparation, fine. If you're going to use a mechanical glide path preparation, then you have to use a manual method first, then switch on to a mechanical file. All right. Second, flood the pulp chamber with chelator for initial filing procedures only. If you are going to use hypochlorite for initial filing procedure, what is going to happen? Your hypochlorite will produce a lot of it's going to it's going to dissolve the organic debris which is present in the pulp, and this dissolved organic debris, it's going to hamper or provide resistance to the advancement of rotary file till the apex. So initially it's always better to fill the pulp chamber with chelator so that your file is cleaned of debris. Then in the later stages you use hypochlorite during shaping procedures. So for non-vital pulp and after complete pulp extirpation only, flood the chamber with hypochlorite. Now, coming to root canal shaping files. Motor-driven Naitai root canal shaping files, the market is flooded with these files. Now, if I'm going to use a file or somebody is going to sell the files, or the files which are flooded in the market, they are categorized on the basis of their metallurgy. I'm sure you must have heard M wire files, R phase file, okay, CM wire. So that depends upon the metallurgical manufacturing of the file. Second, the files can be categorized on the basis of motion kinetics, whether the file moves in rotary motion, it moves in reciprocating motion, it moves in adaptive motion, or it moves in transline motion. Then the files are manufactured and marketed for the purpose of one file in the purpose of one file system. That means you have one file doing everything, entire shaping procedure. Like you in ProTaper, you have F1, F2, S1, S2, F1, and F2 and F3. These 5 files are there, right? But with 2 shape, you have TS1 and TS2. With Wave 1, you have only one file system. So this is how the files are categorized. There are multiple files to do shaping. There is a single file to do shaping, right? Now I'm going to take each aspect individually. Almost all the motor driven files are made up of nitinol alloy. Nitinol means they are made up of nickel and titanium alloy. Let's come to nitinol. Nitinol alloy basically comprises of 56% by weight of nickel and 44% by weight of this nitinol is made up of titanium. So it's somewhat an equiatomic alloy, right? And all the alloys which are equiatomic, they have these two wonderful properties. They are super elastic and they have shape memory. All right. Super elastic means the file behaves like a spring. You press the spring takes load, it compresses. Once the load is removed, it comes back. All right. Shape memory means the file has the power to come back to its original shape. So these two properties are very important for nickel titanium file when used in root canal shaping procedures. All right. Now, super elasticity and shape memory is attributed to phase transformation step, and this is a thermoelastic phase transformation. That means thermal variation or temperature variation induces the transformation from one phase to another. Ideally, there are two phases. You have a austenite phase and then you have a martensite phase. In austenite phase, the file is stiff. When the file is stiff, it is used for cutting. In martensitic phase, the file is flexible. When the file is flexible, it takes the shape of the canal. So manufacturers, they play with these two phases. All right. The principle says that your file should be cutting in austenite phase and it should take the shape of the canal, or it should be used inside the curved canal when it is in M phase or martensitic phase. Right. So the martensitic phase can be twin martensitic or D-twin martensitic. You have a austenite phase. From austenite phase, when load is applied, the file changes to a twin martensite phase. In twin martensite phase, there is alteration within the internal anatomy in the molecules of the file, but there is no obvious deformation of the file, right? When load is continuously applied, the twin martensite phase changes to D-twin martensite phase, or deformed martensite phase, or deformed file. In deformed file, the file changes its shape. So this is the principle of phase transformation, and all these phase transformation, the entire phase transformation that occurs in change of temperature. So let's see how a file is made. A raw nitrile wire is taken, it is machined. By machining, the file takes its shape. The file is manufactured or machined to provide square blanks or triangular blanks, to adjust the pitch, to adjust the radial lines. That is the principle of machining. After machining, the surface of the file, as I mentioned, a raw wire is taken, it is machined, then surface of the wire or the file is treated to minimize the process of crack initiation and crack propagation, and finally the surface treated file is subjected to specialized thermomechanical heat treatments. All right, what is the usefulness of, or why do we do surface treatment? Basically, during machining, a lot of irregularities are created on a wire. So by surface treatment, these irregularities are created. Let me show you this diagram. Can you see this particular photograph? This is a photograph of a RevoS file before electropolishing. Directly after machining, the photo is taken. So you can see the irregularities or the minor flecks of metal surfaces on the minor flecks of metal on the surface of the rotary file, right? These small metal particles or impurities on the surface of the rotary file, they can initiate cracks within the file and also in the surrounding radicular dentine. And these cracks might propagate during shaping procedures, after endodontics, during mastication, and may lead to tooth fracture, vertical fractures of the tooth. All right. So electropolishing is one surface treatment which helps to remove the surface impurities. Besides, there are other surface modifications also. There are techniques known as plasma ion immersion implantation, oxide formations, thermal nitridation, cryogenic treatment, and electropolishing. Now, if you want to read more in detail about these procedures, you can go to my YouTube channel. I have explained all the procedures in detail. So if you want to go through if you want to just go through the metallurgy of rotary files, please you can go to my YouTube channel and see this video. All right. So after surface modification, the file is subjected to thermomechanical heat treatment. By thermomechanical heat treatment, you get what is known as M-wire technology or R-phase technology. M-wire means your wave one. Dentsply has patented M-wire technology. CM wire, EDM wire. EDM wire is your high flex. Max wire technology. T wire is your two shape. C wire is one shape. Now, What are the advantages of heat treatment? Heat treatment transforms the alloy into a different crystalline phase structure. It increases the cyclic fatigue resistance of the file. That means the longevity of the file increases the flexibility of the file, making files more efficient for preparing curved canals. Studies have shown that heat treatment of wave 1 file has made it 80% more flexible. Imagine how much is 80% more flexibility enhancement. So that means the file is even more safer when you're going to use it in curved canals. It affects the torsional resistance. It reduces the torsional fracture chances. It enhances the micro hardness of the file. So heat treatment is increasing the hardness of the file. At the same time, heat treatment is making the file more flexible so that it can be used in curved canals. Additionally, heat treatment is making the file more stiff. It can be used multiple times. This is the file which I am using in my practice. TS1 and TS2 marketed by Micromega, they are heat treatment. So the steps are very simple. Electropolishing, and after electropolishing, heat treatment is done. Now, we talk about NiTi files. Advantages: they have original canal shape. They have a high cutting efficiency. They are super elastic. They have greater flexibility. But the biggest drawback of NiTi file is that they have a high risk of separation. The file separates inside the canal. Unlike with stainless steel file that shows you a bending or a crink on the surface before separation, stainless nickel titanium file doesn't give you any sign. So the biggest drawback of a rotary NiTi file is the possibility of file fracture within the root canal, and which is a big headache for clinician. So there are two types of file fractures. One is flexural fracture, the other is your torsional fracture. Flexural fracture means suppose a file is made or manufactured to be used for 5 canals. If you have used in 8th canal and the file breaks, that is your flexural fracture. The file is subjected to repeated loads of compression and tension, after which the file breaks. Torsional fracture. I'm just going to explain you in a very simple manner. You take a new file, brand new file, place it inside the canal, the file is stuck and the file breaks. That is your torsional fracture. The file gets stuck within the dentine, it is unable to bear the load, it is unable to bear the stresses, and it fractures. So that is torsional fracture. Okay, this is one case where I did endodontics with TS1 and TS2. Now, coming to the motion kinematics of root canal shaping files. As I mentioned, on the basis of root motion kinematics, the file can move in rotary motion, it can move in reciprocating motion, it can move in adaptive motion, or it can move in transline motion. This is your rotary motion. The file moves continuously in 360 degrees clockwise. Okay. So rotary motion is in a circle. It is at 360 degrees. Number of rotations generated on the file around the central axis, that is the speed of the file, rotational speed of the file, and it is measured in RPM. Whenever you buy a pack of file, if you look at the readings given with the particular file pack, you can always see that each file has their own rotational speed. Alright, some files are meant to be used at 300 rpm, some files are meant to be used at 400 rpm. So each file, depending on its manufacturing procedure, had a particular speed of using, right? The recommended RPM for most of the rotary file after scientific studies is 250 to 500. There are a number of files available in the market. Prodaper Gold, Silk, One Curve, TS1 and TS2, and each have their own rotational speed. Look at this video. This is how a file rotates inside a canal. The file shown here is one curve. It is a single file. You can see the file is rotating in continuous manner. Look at this. This is how the file rotates. Now coming to a very important aspect, which is torque. Torque is the force which causes the file to rotate inside the canal without being fractured while maintaining its cutting efficiency on the surrounding radicular dentine. All right. Now let's see at this diagram. You put a file inside the canal, you rotate the file. The force which is used to rotate a file is known as torque. In response to torque, reactionary torque is generated. This is Newton's law. Every action has equal and opposite reaction. So if you're going to use a 250 RPM torque, reactionary torque is also 250 RPM. Now reactionary force or reactionary torque will be produced by the file on the surrounding radicular dentine. Your file takes the force and it dissipates the force on the surrounding radicular dentine. Now torque is applied on the file. Reactionary torque is applied by the radicular dentine. Reactionary torque is applied by the reactionary dentine. The torque is an inherent property of the file. It basically depends upon the radius of the file and the apical force on the file. So any force which is more than rotating force or the torque will stop the file from rotating. As I mentioned, torque is the inherent property of the file. It is decided or it is pre-decided depending upon the cross-section design of the file, the metallurgy of the file, like heat-treated files have different torque than your SS files. Depending upon the tip size, smaller files have different torque, larger files have different torque. Depending upon the taper, a 2% file will have different torque, a 4% file will have different torque, and a 6% file will also have a different torque. Look at this diagram. If torque is equal to your reactionary torque, then the file will stop rotating, right? If torque is greater than your reactionary torque, that means the radicular dentine is producing forces on the file. But if this force is less than the torque you are applying, the file will keep on rotating. If the torque applied on the file is less and the reactionary torque is more, that means the radicular dentine is going to produce a lot of forces on the file and the file will fracture. So this is the principle of torque and reactionary torque. That is why most of your files break inside the root canal and you are unaware. So whenever you are working on a rotary file, please look at the torque, look at the RPM or the rotational speed. Speed is less or speed is inversely proportional to the torque. Let me explain you how. If speed is more, suppose you are going to rotate a file at 500 RPM. That means you have to apply less torque. You have to apply less force and the file is safe. Now, you have reduced the speed of the rotary file to 100 RPM. At 100 RPM, the file is not going to cut. That means more torque is required. The file requires more force to cut the radicular dentine. In this case, the file may fracture. So speed is inversely proportional to torque. But again, I'm repeating, if you're going to work on any particular rotary system, please check speed and torque before you work or before you place the file inside the root canal. Every endomotor has features. This is especially for postgraduates who are planning to buy endomotor. Whenever you are looking for an endomotor, please look at these features. The speed control, it should have a wide range of speed control, especially from 250 to 500 RPM. The torque control should be as minimal as 0.0 Newton per centimeter to a higher range. Minimum range is more important. It should have a apical distance control also. There are some functions which are integrated in endomotor in relation to torque control. This is auto stop, auto reverse, optimal torque reverse, and auto reduction. Let's see what are these. Suppose your file moves inside a root canal, the torque increases. As the torque reaches the preset torque value, which may be anything, but in this case, it is 1.2 Newton per centimeter. As soon as the file reaches the preset torque value, the file auto reverses. It rotates in anti-clockwise direction and it comes out. This is the principle of auto reverse. Auto reverse principle is a safety factor. All right. Because if the file reaches a preset torque level, the file will fracture. So the endomotor with the file senses the torque produced in the surrounding radicular dentine. It senses the torque. If the torque reaches more than the preset torque level, the file rotates in anti-clockwise manner and moves out. So if the file senses a preset torque limit, the file may stop. That means there is an auto stop function, or the file may move in anti-clockwise direction and move out. This is an auto reverse function. So your endomotor may have an auto stop function or an auto reverse function. Next function is optimal torque reverse motion. You put your file inside the canal, the motor rotates continuously in clockwise direction. If the torque exceeds a predetermined value, the rotation changes from alternating 90-degree clockwise to anti-clockwise until the torque falls below the predetermined value. That means the file moves, instead of moving completely at 360 degrees, right, in a clockwise direction, the file moves counterclockwise, anti-clockwise and clockwise, counterclockwise and clockwise. That means it is disengaging dentine, it is engaging dentine. This is how it is reducing the overall stresses produced on the surface of the file and the surrounding radicular dentine. So this is a torque provoked reversal of the direction of rotation. Advantages includes significantly lower maximum torque, reduces stresses on the file because the file is disengaging and engaging. It enhances the cutting efficiency of the file without being separated inside the canal. Let me show you this. There's a file inside the canal. Okay, it is moving in continuously rotating direction. As soon as the torque reaches the predetermined torque value, the file starts moving in adaptive torque reverse. 90-degree anti-clockwise, 180 clockwise. Look at this. 90-degree anti-clockwise, 180-degree clockwise. So the overall motion is reduced to 90 degrees from 360 degrees. Okay, then you have apical torque reduction also. That means when the file senses the preset torque value, it reduces the torque produced on the file automatically. So there are some important points to remember. Choose endomotor which have low torque value. Choose instrument specific torque and speed values only. Please don't do any heroics when you're doing rotary endodontics. If speed is 250 RPM, don't change it to 500 RPM. Larger files and greater taper files, they require more torque and they are more susceptible to cyclic fracture because they have a more core metal inside them. And because of more core metal, these files become more stiff as compared to their lesser taper counterparts. Smaller and lesser files, they require less torque. They are very small files and they are more prone to torsional fracture because they are flexible files. So it is always recommended to keep the speed with night eye rotaries low, below 300 RPM. Now coming to the next important motion, that is your reciprocation motion. What is reciprocation? You must have heard the file works in reciprocation motion. Now let us understand what is reciprocation and how the motion happens. So reciprocation motion is defined as any repetitive back and forth that has been clinically utilized. Repetitive back and forth motion or reciprocating motion is based on the principle of balanced force concept that was introduced by James B. Rowan in the year 1985. He said that the file, if a hand file is used in a balanced force technique, it reduces the chances of file separation, increases the efficiency of the file to cut dentine in curved canals. So reciprocating motion can be asymmetric and symmetric. Asymmetric means 180-degree clockwise, 90-degree anti-clockwise. Symmetric means 90 and 90. All right. Let's come to symmetric oscillating reciprocating motions. Resemble the classic watch winding motion when you're using with a manual SS5. 1/4 or quarter degree movement clockwise, quarter degree movement anti-clockwise. So this is your watch winding motion. When you understand or when you talk about symmetric oscillation, symmetric reciprocation, one parameter is very important, which is gear ratio. Gear ratio is something known as number of revolutions input or sent to an endomotor and number of revolutions produced by an endomotor. Suppose the endomotor is working at 400 rpm. That means 400 rpm is sent to endomotor. 400 rpm is generated within the endomotor, but endomotor produces 1000 rpm. All right. So in this, the gear ratio is 400 divided by 100, that becomes 4. Now, depending upon the gear ratios, there are number of handpieces available in the market, and these handpieces are color coded. You have red coding, blue coding, and green coding. Very important for postgraduates if you are planning to buy armamentarium in your clinics. Red ring means speed increasing gear ratios. The speed increasing handpiece will increase the speed as per the gear ratio. It's always in the ratio of 1:2, 1:3, 1:7, etc. That means 100 rpm is generated. 100 rpm is generated, and 700 rpms are produced by the rotary file, produced at the tip of rotary file. Blue ring means same rpm. The endomotor works at 100 rpm. The endomotor produces 100 rpm. Green ring means speed reduction. The endomotor works at 400 rpm. The endomotor produces 100 rpm. So that is a green ring. Green ring means speed reduction handpiece. It will reduce the speed as per the gear ratio. So there are different handpieces available in the market based on symmetric reciprocation. They are most commonly used ones are M4 safety handpiece. This is by Cyblon Endo. This is a push button handpiece. It works on 30-degree reciprocation. That means 30-degree clockwise, 30-degree anti-clockwise. This principle works on watch winding technique. So if you're going to use your hand files with this handpiece, the tactile sensation will be same, but fatigue of your hands will be reduced quite a lot. Gear ratio is 4:1. That means it uses 40,000 rpm to work, but it produces 1000 rpm. Maximum speed is 10,000. K400 handpiece is another beautiful handpiece by Bombay Dental and Surgical. This has a push button handpiece. The other advantage of this particular handpiece is that price is comparatively less. M4 safety is quite expensive. I think that's 30, but K400 is very cheap. It's around 5,000. So for postgraduates who are willing to inculcate these type of handpieces in their practice, you can go with K400 handpiece. So this handpiece has a push button type, and these handpieces are specially made to use your hand files, right? You can use your 2% K files or H files with this handpiece. They are not meant to use rotary files. As I mentioned, the K400 handpiece is like M4 safety handpiece by Cyblon Endo. It also has a 30-degree reciprocating action. Recommended speed is 4,000 to 300 rpm. It can be used with air motor, or it can be used with micromotor, or it can be used with 1:1 gear endomotors. How should you use it? You use it after 10 number file. That means manually you place a 10 number file. You use a 10 number file to scout the canal, to study the canal, to take working length, and to produce a glide path. Once you have prepared the canal with a 10 number file, you can use your 15, 20, 25 number K files with M4 safety handpiece or K400 handpiece. If you're working on primary molars or primary teeth where you're going to use only your hand files, This is the best method. It drastically reduces your fatigue. You can also pre-curve the file similarly like you do when you're using in a manual manner. You can pre-curve the file. The pre-curved file can be attached to your K400 handpiece and you can shape the canals. 5, 7 in and out strokes per canal are sufficient and 10 to 15 seconds per file per canal is sufficient. Let me show you this video. This patient came to me. There was a calcified canal, root piece. She was a geriatric group. She belonged to a geriatric group. So, and requested to save the tooth. So we planned for root canal procedure followed by a post-endodontic restoration, post and core. But coronal part of the canal is calcified, as you can see. And I created a ledge. This was my mistake while negotiating the canal. So we used our stiff files to locate the canal. Perforation was repaired with MTA. Then I used a K400 handpiece to prepare a glide path. This is how files can be used. 25 number file. Entire canal was shaped with greater taper files, masterful selection. Canal was irrigated. 3D obturation was done with warm vertical compaction. Same visit, after shaping and obturation, we did perforation repair also. All right. So what are the advantages? It reduces the chances of file separation because you're going to use a hand file, and it has a tactile sensation also. It produces more efficient cutting and it also produces faster preparation. Even studies have shown that torsional stresses and bending stresses are lower when the angles are smaller. If you're going to use a 90-degree or 120-degree angle of rotation and reciprocation, stresses generated will be more. So it's safer if you're going to use a 30 degrees or a 90-degree angle. So using reciprocating handpiece with lesser degree of reciprocating movement is always considered. If you're going to buy a handpiece, if you're going to buy these handpieces to prepare your glide path, so please keep in mind whenever you are buying a handpiece, reciprocating handpiece, always look for degree of reciprocating movements. Handpiece with a lesser degree is safer, produces less stresses on the file. Drawbacks are it has decreased cutting efficiency, more inward pressure is required. You have to push your handpiece inside. You have to push your file inside. Limited capacity to auger the debris out of the canal, and there are chances of iatrogenic errors because SS files are stiff and NiTi files are flexible. Next is partial or asymmetric reciprocation. Partial or asymmetric reciprocation means angle of rotation in the cutting direction is higher than the angle of rotation in the opposite non-cutting direction. Okay, advantages are adequate cutting efficiency, apical progression of the instrument automatically inside the canal. You don't have to apply forces or push the file inside the canal, reduces the amount of torsional stresses produced on the file because the file is engaging dentine, it's disengaging dentine. There were a lot of articles and Dr. Gassin Yared is supposed to be the endodontist who invented the principle of reciprocation in rotary endodontics. He used an F2 file of Pro taper system Why? Because F2 file has a reverse cutting edge. That means it cuts the dentine in clockwise direction and it cuts the dentine in anti-clockwise direction. So that is why he decided to use F2 protaper. And he used specific parameters. That means he used a clockwise angle 160. He used an anti-clockwise or reciprocating angle at 90 degrees. So these were the angles set he used to achieve reciprocation action with F2 protaper. And in their studies, they concluded, or he concluded, that one file, when F2 file was used with reciprocation action, one file can be used to produce entire shaping procedure. Since one file is used, it reduces the chances of prion contamination. It enhances the fatigue resistance of the file, and it is also cost effective. Later studies suggested that one F2 file can be used to shape minimum 6 curved canals in reciprocating motion, and reciprocating preparation with only one F2 file was comparatively faster than continuous rotation. Why? Because in continuous rotation you have to use a sequence of the file like S1, S2, F1, F2. But with F2 you're just going to use one file to prepare the entire canal. Later by Dr. Didas, he said that reciprocating movement increases the cyclic fatigue life of the file. That means it increases the longevity of the file in comparison with rotary motion. And the amount of debris produced was comparatively less when F2 file was used. F2 protaper technique is most simple and cost-effective approach as compared to a rotary file. So the principle of reciprocation is integrated in Wave 1 files, which is manufactured by Dentsply, Reciproc, which is manufactured by VDW. The Wave 1 files have been modified and now they are marketed as Wave 1 heat-treated files. Initially, they were not heat-treated, so they were quite tough. Later on, this company, they modified the files and modified the surface of the file by thermomechanical treatment. Then Reciproc Glue by VDW, this is also a heat-treated file. In Wave 1 Gold, you have sequences like large, primary, medium, and small. Small one is used for very fine canals, and larger ones are used for broad canals. So if you're going to work on primary molars, use a smaller file. If you're going to work on primary anterior teeth, larger Wave 1 Gold file works beautifully. This is a one file system. These files, they have a clockwise angle of 150 degrees and counterclockwise of 30 degrees. The net result is 120 degrees. With every movement, 120 clockwise, 120 degrees counterclockwise motion is produced. So 3 reciprocation makes 1 full rotation. Okay, it has a reverse cutting edge. That is why it cuts when it reciprocates. It cuts in counterclockwise direction. It engages and cuts dentine at 150 counterclockwise direction, and it is disengaged in clockwise direction. This is in contrast to your continuous rotary files. Protocol is very simple. You scout the file with a 10 number K file. You establish patency, prepare glide path using a pro glider which is marketed by Dentsply, and then you can shape the canals using Wave 1 file. Advantages: they reduce the risk associated with continuous rotation, reduces stresses produced all along the length of the file. And there is also reduced risk of file binding inside the canal. Then you have Reciproc Glue. They are available in different sizes: narrow canals, medium canals, and wide canal. That depends. If you're going to use on primary anterior teeth, you can use 50 number. If you're going to work on molars, you're going to use 25 number file. Now the question arises, can you use a rotary file in reciprocation mode? Of course you can use a rotary file in reciprocation mode, but it should fulfill 2 important criteria. One, the file should have a forward and a reverse cutting edge. If it has a forward cutting edge, it's going to work or cut in rotary motion. If it has a reverse cutting edge, definitely it's going to cut in reciprocation motion. And you should know the reciprocating and the rotary angles. You cannot use any file at any rotary or reciprocating angle you want. You should understand the science behind it, and then you can you can use the file at a definite counterclockwise and a clockwise angle of motion. But When you're going to apply this science, always remember that the sum of forward angle, clockwise angle, and the sum of counterclockwise angle should be more than 120. Like 150 plus 30, 90 plus 120, or 90 plus 30. It should always be more than 120. Now coming to next important motion is adaptive motion. Adaptive is something like your torque optimized torque reverse function. That means when you take a file, when the file is placed inside the canal, the file moves in clockwise direction. Okay, as soon as the file senses torque, high torque, all right, the motion of the file changes from continuous rotation to reciprocation. So this is how the file adapts inside the canal. Due to increased instrumentation stresses and metal fatigue, the motion of the file changes into a reciprocation motion. Counterclockwise and clockwise angle, they may vary from 0 to 600 degrees up to 50 to 370 degrees. This is a set depending on the anatomical complexities and the intracanal stresses placed on the instrument during shaping procedures. So this is a system. This is an endostation which is available. Benefits are it reduces the chances of instrument separation within the canal, and adaptive motor automatically selects the best movement. It automatically decides whether the file should be moved in a rotary motion or reciprocation or amalgamation of both. And studies have shown that adaptive motion increases the resistance of pro-taper universal for D1 file due to high cyclic failure. TF adaptive instrument TF of adaptive instrument with adaptive movement produce maximal and total torsional stresses. The amount of stresses produced with TF adaptive movement is comparatively less because the file engages during clockwise direction and disengages during anti-clockwise direction. Advantages are reduces the tendency of cyclic failure when the file is moving in a curved canal, reduces torsional stresses, increases the life of the file, decreases extrusion of the debris, and reduces dentinal cracks. So these files are used according to the canal complexities. Like you have small and files for small and medium canals. You have files for medium and large canals. You take a suppose let's see this case when you take a 50 number file, you place 50 number file inside the canal. If the file reaches till the working length efficiently, you take a small file. If the file is loose, 50 number file is loose till the working length, then you go for a larger file. For working on primary anteriors, it's always better to use larger files or medium files. If you're going to work on primary molars, please use a smaller file. Next and the last topic is self-adjusting file. This file has the advantage of being used in vibratory transline motion. That means it works in up and down transline motion. At the same time, it vibrates also. Other advantages is this is the only file system which shapes the canal and clean the canal together as a complete job. The entire concept was discovered by Dr. Zevi Metzger, I think in the year 2009 or 10. Dr. Zevi Metzger, along with his team of Dr. Anda Kafir and Dr. Wells Wiesman, were the first one who invented the principle. And the entire system comprises of a endostation which has a media irrigation pump. The irrigation pump disposes sodium hypochlorite into the root canal while shaping, and speed is around 4 ml of hypochlorite is disposed in 1 minute. Concept says you have to use self-adjusting file system, self-adjusting file in a canal for 4 minutes. That means in 4 minutes, 16 ml of hypochlorite is placed inside the root canal. All right. Along with this, along with the pump, RDT, a special handpiece is attached. This is a gyrometric handpiece, and it moves in. It's somewhat like a reciprocating handpiece. It moves in clockwise and anti-clockwise direction. At the same time, the file moves in transline manner and the file vibrates. Around 50,000 vibrations are produced on the file. So it's a hollow compressible file, and studies have suggested that A self-adjusted file system is very efficient where it is used in different cases with complexities like a C-shaped root canal. In single visit endodontics, SAF produces really good result. And this is my own case where I did root canal using self-adjusting file system, and patient had minimal post-operative pain. Especially in pediatric cases also, there are a lot of studies which have been done worldwide using self-adjusting file system, and they have shown to produce excellent result. If you compare in terms of debris extrusion, SAF is best. If you compare in terms of canal centering ability and shaping, SAF is best. If you compare in terms of post-operative SAF, the use of SAF in pediatric dentistry, there are so many articles currently available, which says that SAF is comparatively safe when you use in pediatric dentistry. The amount of debris, the amount of extruded debris produced by SAF is comparatively or significantly less when you compare with other file systems. Secondly, SAF is very good in cases with canal complexity. SAF does not produce post-operative pain as much as you compare with other file systems. So these 2-3 factors make SAF very safe if you're going to use in pediatric dentistry. I know implementation is very tough. You have to apply rubber dam. Rubber dam is very important because sodium hypochlorite keeps on sweeping out and keeps on sweeping out continuously inside the canal. So without sodium hypochlorite, you are subjecting the oral tissues to a caustic chemical without using a rubber dam. So it's always mandatory to apply rubber dam in such cases. There are many articles available on SAF file systems. Yes, and this was a study which we did, and this was a multicentric study. We assessed the post-operative pain using, just switch on your camera, man. So this was a multicentric study that was done by us, and SAF produced fabulous result. In terms, remember, SAF produces good result in terms of canal centering ability, in terms of post-operative pain, in terms of minimal apical debris extrusion. Okay, so after your shaping files and before irrigation, important step is assess apical gauging, or assess uh, the measurement of the canal produced, assess the measurement of the minor constriction, so that we can assess the size of the master cone. This is a very important step if you are going to work on permanent molars. For definitely for primary molars, this step is not so important because you're not going to place any master cone inside the canal. Okay, so I'm going to finish it in 1 minute only. And apical gauging is to assess the size of apical separation. There are 3 methods to assess apical gauging: tactile, visual gauging, and master cone technique. Tactile sensation means you place your file inside the canal. Suppose your master apical file is 20 and you want to assess the size of the master cone. So you take a 2% file. You place a 2% file inside the canal. If your 20 number file goes beyond, that means your canal is wider. You place a 30 number file. The 30 number file is short of the canal. Then you place a 25 number file which reaches till the working length. So the size of the master cone should complement the size of a 25 number K file. It's always advised to use a 2% NiTi file because they are hyper flexible and they are more accurate. Since they are hyper flexible, they can reach the apical constriction easily. Next is visual gauging method. You place a file inside the root canal, you take the file off, and you see a lot of dentinal shavings on the canal on the file. That means the file has reached the apex. If the file is clean, that means the file has gone beyond the apex. or the file is unable to reach the apex. You check for the master cone. You place a master cone inside the canal and you check in the surface of the cone before obturation. Use Gattaparka cone with taper smaller than the prepared canal. The Gattaparka cone should bind only at its end with the canal walls and not along the length of the canal. You always check for tug back. Tug back in simple words means frictional resistance to displacement. And why do you check? It gives a better a knowledge of the better apical seal. Canal preparation matches master point closely. Obturation is more likely to be better sealing and GP is not extruded beyond the foramen during downpacking. So this is how you check. You place a master cone and you check for tug back. Tug back should be till the working length. If you are getting a tug back in the middle part, then there is a false tug back. So how do you check? Canal should be prepared and it should be absolutely clean before putting a master cone. Check the master cone with a wet canal. Apical gauging should be checked to decide the master cone. Insert the cone into the canal. Gently check and check the point at where it binds. Remove the cone. Inspect it to check for GP binding and crimping. You should see where the GP binds, at the apex or in the coronal third. So that's all. Thank you so much.